everyone and welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV, where today it is time to begin finishing up Blue Mage. Because this final set of Blue Mage content for A Realm Reborn is gonna take almost all week. We got a lot to do. First off, let's check with Wayward Gahilja. Is there any more Wallachie totems we can get? Let's see. Nope, no new ones. Fair enough. Alright then. Let's go ahead and get started then. Madeline Latulja, what do you have for me? Well, our good friend is either resting or fighting still. I think he's resting at this point. Is he still resting? I think he's still resting. Latulja is doing a fine job of holding the fort in Martin's absence. Ooh, and this one will give us item level 130 Magus attire. Nice. And a new item level 130 weapon, which has no stats on it. God, okay, fine. Satora learned Glower, yes? Then Satora succeeded, just as Martin said. Latulja will tell Martin. You did it, Satora! You've done me proud, and that's not the only cause for celebration. I received a missive saying that Wastrak was as good as his word. The medicine worked and the Wallachie are saved. Oh, thank goodness. We avoided one of the great tragedies, well, out of the infinite number of tragedies of European colonialism. Oh god. Well, that's one positive, I guess, relative to real life. There's so many more other negatives. We'll see if that becomes an issue. Martin, I've been looking everywhere for you. Sieta, how did you get here? Never mind that. I have something urgent to tell you. Satora, this is Sieta, the Wallachie Chirurgeon I told you about. He learned to speak the common tongue of Eorzea and... Will you listen? It's Wastrak. He brought the medicine and everyone with the disease has been cured. But he wasn't content to simply give it to us. He's used it to lay claim to Lapis Canyon. But why would he? Of course, the ceruleum! Lapis Canyon is sacred ground and glows a bright blue because of all the ceruleum beneath the surface. That bastard was after it from the beginning. He must be at the processing plant. Come on, Sieta, let's go. Wastrak, you bastard. Martin, stop! Very quick for a man who lie in bed for many days. Can Satora go with them? I worry that Martin bite off more than Martin can swallow. Or is that chew? As far as Latulja, no processing plant in northern Thanalan. Make sure Martin not do anything stupid. Okay, retcon, that happens in Dawn Trail. This is not spoilers, but it is a little bit weird. At this point, Taral actually speaks the common Eorzean tongue. And we'll get into why later. It's not as colonialist as it sounds. They actually have a pretty decent explanation for it. But also they kind of needed to do that. Otherwise we'd have, all of our party members in Dawn Trail would be unable to understand any of the NPCs, except for us because we have the Echo. So they kind of needed an excuse to have a universal language. So for gameplay reasons, personally I'm willing to let it slide. I can see why people would have issues though. But they do also have a reasonable explanation, which we'll get into many years from now. As a reminder and disclaimer, I'm US American white, so like my opinion should be discounted if someone with relevant experience disagrees with me. My opinion is not the relevant one in any of these conversations. Now, on my personal channel, yes, I'm going to talk about these issues because they're fucking important, and it would be wrong for nothing to be said or done at all, but like, it is not necessarily my lane, and if someone else is adding to the conversation who has a more relevant voice than me, I'm stepping back. I'm keeping my voice to my channel. I encourage you not to take me as an authority on these matters, though. I care, I would like the world to be better, but I also know that I am a very flawed person and don't have the relevant life experience, so. Alright then, hello there, Sieta. Wastrak, asshole. Why must you be so stubborn? Fuck you! The Wallachie have lived in the light of Lapis Canyon for generations. We can't let it be destroyed by Wastrock's men. You only gave them the medicine so you could steal Lapis Canyon. Steal? Don't speak to me like some common thief. I won't deny that obtaining the ceruleum was my primary concern, but we signed an agreement. It's all perfectly legal, I assure you. You know full well the elders can't read Eorzean. You told them that if they didn't sign the contract, they couldn't have the medicine. And besides, your laws don't apply to the Wallachie. Repeating, this has been retconned. Tyrell uses the Eorzean language, written and spoken. Even so, I expect your elders to honor the promise they made, legally binding or not. Plus, this is real-world bullshit that happen all the time in real life. Both forcing people to sign contracts that they don't understand. That's not even like limited to like the U.S. government or European colonizers fucking over Native Americans. That's just like a universal thing. Powerful people love to fuck people over by tricking them into signing things they don't understand. It is an extremely common and manipulative practice. But also, like, US government infamous for violating treaties anyway, so... Yay! Perhaps you have forgotten that the medicine was paid for and produced by my company. Before the negotiations began, I had already spent vast amounts to manufacture a large enough shipment to treat everyone. I saved your tribe from annihilation, and this is how you repay me? I've given you all a second chance to lead healthy, productive lives. Oh, fuck off! Asshole. Manipulative, scheming bastard, and also productive? Fuck you! Capitalist bastard. You took advantage of our suffering so that you could plunder the thing most precious to us. Since the time of my ancestors, Lapis Canyon has been at the center of our beliefs of everything we do. Beliefs? Come now, don't be absurd. That blue substance you call the lifeblood of the planet is ceruleum, a type of fuel. It's not doing any good just sitting there underground. We literally just had a sightseeing log the other day that said ceruleum is ether. It's a concentrated form of ether. So yes, it literally is the lifeblood of the planet. I'm getting heated. But I'm not wrong to get heated. Fuck you, Wastrock. Oh, you're such a scumbag. Once I open a mine in Lapis Canyon, I hope to employ the Wallachie, offering you all an opportunity to earn a proper wage. When you realize what you've been missing all this time, you'll soon forget about your superstitions. I've made my opinions known. I'm trying to hold my tongue. But I really want to tear into him. How bloody dare you? Who are you to call them superstitions? This is their way of life, and all you want to do is destroy it for the sake of your own greed. I'm doing more for the Wallachie than you ever will. I'm giving them a chance to build a better future for themselves. They can either be part of the modern world or be left behind. That is not your decision to make. And also, Tyrell is a separate fucking continent and country from anywhere over here in Aldenard and Ilsabard and Othard. They have come... like... what the... modern... Fuck your ideas of modernity. That's a fucking Eorzean... The context you're speaking of, that's fucking specific to Eorzea. And also bad in the first place. What about the medicine? That was a product of Eorzean society. Without it, they'd all be dead. And another thing, my investor funded its production for a share of the profits from my New World enterprise. Darlings, there's no need to squabble. I admit it, I'm Wastrock's backer. It all started when I told him about Martin's plan to save the Wallachie from the epidemic. You see, the prospect of trading with the New World sounded rather promising, though this is the first I've heard of the ceruleum mine. Expanding into new regions often leads to resistance from the locals, but this is far beyond what I was expecting. Wastrock, I don't like being kept in the dark. I'm seriously considering withdrawing from our deal. That said, I can see this being a worthwhile venture, providing that the Wallachie are not being exploited. But I also agree with Martin that their way of life should not be disrupted. As you can see, this leaves me with a difficult choice. You're still a capitalist bastard, but at least you're far more reasonable and, like, as much as I hate to say, ethical about it compared to Wastrock. Keyword, compared. Which is why I proposed that the two of you settle this in the arena. Wastrock, you're a blue mage yourself, correct? I am indeed, though I should warn you, Martin was never a match for me, even before he was chewed up and spat out by one of your pets. Then perhaps it's time for his apprentice, Azuro II, to make her grand debut. I can picture it now, the ultimate clash of blue magic. The loyal disciple of the great Azura faces a mysterious challenger to determine who is a superior spellcaster. If Satora wins, I'll cut off my funding for the Lapis Canyon project, and the lands will return to their original owners. And if Wastrock is victorious, Martin must act as intermediary for the Wallachie and persuade them to agree to the development. Obviously, losing is not an option. But if Martin is the intermediary, then we know he cares. And if she's putting him at least in a somewhat position of power in this, he can at least try to minimize the harm. There will still be harm, undeniable massive harm. But it is a mitigating factor. Still, losing is not an option. Also, fuck you, Royce. You should just cut off the funding. Because also, they're already cured, so I don't just cut off the funding. The project's done. We're done here. Royce, you can do what you like with that money of yours, but you can't expect me to go along with this. Ultimately, though, it is not really our decision to make. This is the Wallachie's home being disrupted, so... For such an old-fashioned sort of fellow, Martin seems to forget that disputes such as these have been decided by combat since ancient times. I, for one, have no objections. Count me in. I want to make sure that the Wallachie's way of life is not disrupted, but we have a Wallachie right here who we can ask. How do you feel about it, Seata? What about the Wallachie? They should be the ones to decide their own fate, not us. Agreed, Martin. You're right, Martin, but we have a similar tradition. When two sides cannot reach an agreement, a representative from each takes part in a contest of strength. Ideally, one of my people would be chosen, but we are in Eorzea, and I have no choice but to ask you to participate on our behalf. So, will you do it, Satora? I will do everything I can for you. Absolutely. I'll fight for what is right. Very gallant of you, my dear. The crowd will lap this up. First things first, let's get you two into your costumes and take a look at that magic of yours. I want to know what my audience will be getting when the big day arrives. Come along. Alright then, let's get back to Ul'dah and see exactly what this is going to entail. Oh, this sucks. Alright, hello there, asshole, Martin Seata. I've always liked you, Satora, so it's a shame I'll have to give you a damn good thrashing in front of all those people. I have a lot at stake, so don't expect me to hold anything back. Don't worry, I'll murder you. Bloody hell, how did we let Royce talk us into this? This was Seata's decision. Please, you must defeat Wastrock. He's a cruel, heartless man, so don't show him any mercy. Alright. Royce, what exactly is this going to entail for us? Once you've both changed into your new costumes, I'll see you in the arena. This way, my darlings. Satora, my dear, are you ready? Don't celebrate! No, we hurt him! But you missed. Oh, thank God. Ha ha ha, no, Gahilja, not think so. Wonderful, my dear. It seems a new hero is born. Now it's Wastrock's turn. Pay close attention to the costume, darlings. It's my finest creation yet. Such power! The dread warlock who transcends dimensions of time and space, Azul Magia. Why must I be the villain? Because you're a capitalist, and also trying to exploit the Wallachie. That's the more important one, actually. But also he's a capitalist. It's all part of the act, my dear. What could be more thrilling than an epic struggle between good and evil? You mean to tell me Wastrock is inside that thing? And why is he floating? For dramatic effect, of course. If you must know, it's a cerulean levitation device. Surprisingly cheap, too. Apparently there isn't much practical application for the ability to float a few elms off the ground. Good for theater, though. I'm still not convinced it's entirely necessary, and the costume is rather more flamboyant than I would have liked. But if I'm going to do this, I may as well enjoy myself. I'll show the audience what real blue magic looks like. This is also a brilliant PR slam against him, too. That's what I like to hear. It's sure to be a performance they'll never forget, right here at the Masked Carnival. Let's just hope the audience doesn't realize that it is mostly an act. Not to put too fine a point on it, Satora, my dear, but I think you'd benefit from some practice before starting in the main event. Ha! Train all you want, it will make no difference. Lapis Canyon is mine. On the one hand, this feels far too urgent to warrant the haha silly music, and that feels a little bit distasteful. On the other hand, the Masked Carnival is kind of silly. I still can't believe this is happening. Don't let Wastrock intimidate you. I know you can beat him. Oh, don't worry, I'll kick his ass. I'd say you're ready to take part in the Masked Carnival, although I'd recommend testing your skills against less challenging opponents before facing Azul Magia. I've gathered quite the menagerie of exotic beasts, but you should choose with care. We try to call an end to the performance before either side incurs any serious injury, but as Martin will attest, accidents can happen. Once you feel confident in your abilities, say the word and I will grant you and Azul Magia the opportunity to settle this feud. Until then, fight well, but don't do anything rash. I might struggle to find another replacement Blue Mage. That Royce, she's a real piece of work, ain't she? I suppose if I'd seen this coming, we wouldn't be in this mess. You've been doing your best, Martin. You definitely did screw up a little bit, though. It's up to you now, Satora. He's right. If only I hadn't been damn near killed in that bloody show, I could have dealt with him myself. Well, I'd like to think I'd have a chance of winning, but he was always the better mage. To be honest, though, I think you've got a real talent for blue magic. In fact, you shouldn't be scared of Wastrock, he should be scared of you. With the right spells, I reckon you'll be able to take him down a peg or two. Now get out there and show him what you're made of. Oh! You okay? Look at me getting all worked up like that. I better head back before the Chirurgeon realizes I've gone. Hopefully I'll be allowed out of the infirmary to watch some of your performances, though. Best of luck, Satora. Alright. That gives us new weapon, new gear, and unlocks the Masked Carnival. The Mass Carnival has been unlocked. To participate, speak with the Celestium Attendant in Onyx Lane. Alright, before we do that, we've got a few things to take care of. 1. Mage's attire. Oh, it's not an upgrade at all. Rude. Really? Is it really not an upgrade? Hang on, I'm checking that. Mage's mask. Item comparison. Vitality's good, intelligence is good. Critical hits. Better. Direct hits replaced with spell speed. I guess. Honestly, as long as the intelligence matches, we're fine, because intelligence has a huge effect on your damage as a blue mage. Alright, fine. I'm gonna go set up my new glam for the new gear for blue mage. And then I suppose before we get started on the Mass Carnival, we need to go start learning a few new spells. Just a few more to make sure we have all the spells in our Realm Reborn, so that we are fully ready to go. I'll be back in a bit. Alright, our first spell is going to be from the Tonberry King here in the Wanderer's Palace, where I believe we're going to be getting Sharpened Knife. Very good physical ability. Next up, in Pharaoh Sirius, we're going to be getting 2 spells out of the Zoo, which is the second boss. One is going to be Sonic Boom, which is one of its regular attacks. The other one, in order to get, we're going to need to cause the Zoo to enrage, and that means killing at least 2 of the eggs. Killing at least 2 of the eggs and pissing it off enough, it will use Flying Frenzy on us. Next up, we are fighting at the end of Pharaoh Sirius, the Siren. Don't remember off the top of my head what the spell is. Song of Torment. Fair enough. I believe that one drops a debuff on people. Next up, Rayflock's Longstop Hard. From the boss at the end, we can get ourselves Flamethrower. Going through these rapid fire. Next up, Stone Vigil Hard, Kukafera. We're going to use Diamond back, and then we're going to use Doom in order to kill it. Doom we will be getting a little bit later. Because without Doom, this boss is miserable. Anyways, we got Diamond back. Next up, in Sastasha Hard from Karlabos, the first boss, we're going to be getting Tail Screw. I almost called it Screw Tail. Close enough. Same dungeon, end of the dungeon, we fight the Kraken and get ourselves, I believe it's going to be Inkjet. As a reminder, for all of these spells, you need to see the boss use it and then kill the boss. And it's not guaranteed that you'll learn it. It is guaranteed if you have a full party, or rather if you go in with level sync on. You don't need a full party, but full party helps. Wanderer's Palace Hard, we're fighting the first boss, Frumius Kohil Ja for Fire Engen, which involves throwing a flaming spear at people. Next up, we're going to have 2 spells from Leviathan. One of them is going to be Aqua Breath, which I believe is one of Leviathan's just standard spells. The other one we're going to need to do another run of. For this one, we are getting Veil of the Whirl. And Veil of the Whirl is basically the reflect that he starts using after the first dive into the water. So very, very early on in the fight. Ramu is going to have Shock Strike for us, which is one of his regular attacks, so he's probably going to use it. Next up, we're getting 2 spells out of Ultros and Typhon. Ultros is going to give us 4 tons of weight. It took a while for him to use that. Typhon is going to use Snort. Not any of the variants of Snort, we need just Snort itself. There's a lot of variants. Next up, we are fighting Battle in the Big Keep and getting Missile from Enkidu. Missile's very powerful. Alright, next up, we are heading on to some extreme trials. The Howling Eye against Garuda. We're going to be getting Feather Rain, I believe. Some of these spells from Primals we can get from the hard versions of their trials, but I know Garuda's definitely requires the extreme version. Next up, Titan Extreme is going to give us Mountain Buster, I want to say. There we are, Mountain Buster. Next up, we're heading against Shiva Extreme. In the last phase, when she pulls out her bow, the first ability she uses is Glass Dance, and that's what we're learning. It's the first ability when she pulls out the bow. And finally, Binding Coils turn 1, the ADS, the first boss we fight, is going to have an ability for us. I actually forgot its name. Oh dear. Well, we'll kill it in just a minute, and got ourselves High Voltage, and that's all of them. And that is just about every spell we can get as Blue Mage right now in this set. So as Blue Mage was released, it came out in... It was originally released in late Stormblood, but when they released it, it only covered A Realm Reborn content and only had spells for A Realm Reborn areas. Then later it was updated to include Heavensward, and then it was updated to include Stormblood, and it's just been progressively getting updated like that, adding just an extra expansion here or there. Adding more spells, more stuff to do, and just gradually growing it. In the A Realm Reborn set, there are... Where's my Blue Mage spellbook? Where? There it is. In the A Realm Reborn set, the spells went up to number 49. 1 to 49 were all in the original A Realm Reborn set. And we have all but 2 of those, and the 2 we don't have, well, they're from Wallachy Totems, and we'll figure out how to get to those in a little bit. But I did get a few that are past number 49, purely because while they were added later, they ended up being like fairly easy to get in A Realm Reborn. There are a few other spells that are available in A Realm Reborn areas that I'm just not going to get right now. These spells that I got are good, especially Basic Instinct, but I think I'm just going to focus on each individual set. So 1 to 49 for A Realm Reborn, once we are doing Heavensward, and get the Heavensward spells. I believe that's all the way up to number 80. And then, yeah, Stormblood goes from a little bit further from there. Looks like 104 is the end of Stormblood. Alright, so yeah. We're going to go set by set when we are learning these spells, just to make it a little bit easier. I could get a few more later spells right now, but I'm not going to stress about it. We'll get them in time. So let's go over the new spells we did get. Flamethrower. As with thaumaturgical fire spells, the jet of fire produced by this technique manifests from a burst of fire aspected ether. Certain weapons produce similar effects, however, this is not through ethereal manipulation, but rather the copious use of highly flammable liquid. 1 point, looks like that is standard GCD cast time. 200 MP deals fire damage to all enemies in a cone before us with a potency of 220 for the first enemy and 50% less for all remaining enemies. So, slightly more powerful than water cannon, double the MP cost, which isn't a big deal, a little bit more damage, and also does AoE. Not bad. It is fire elements. The elements are about to become very important as we get into the Mass Carnival, so definitely worth keeping these in mind. Flying Frenzy. Replicating this technique requires magically altering one's own state of mind to mimic that of a zoo. The Flying Strike, that result surpasses some normal physical limitations, but requires dispensing with caution in favor of an all-consuming rage. The sensible mage will shield herself with Ether first. That is a very short cast time on a standard GCD, 200 MP, delivers a jumping physical attack to target and all enemies nearby with a potency of 150 for the first, and 50% for all remaining enemies. Cannot be executed while bound. Alright, next on the list is High Voltage, an industrial form of machina-based ethereal manipulation, developed and adapted by the Allegan Empire. Through the compression of ambient lightning aspected ether, the caster or casting machina floods the vicinity with highly charged arcs of electricity. That looks like it is a standard cast, 200 MP, deals lightning damage to all nearby enemies with a potency of 180 for the first and 50% less for all remaining. Also inflicts paralysis for 15 seconds. Potency increases to 220 when target is afflicted with Dropsy. Duration of paralysis is increased to 30 seconds when target is afflicted with Dropsy. Ooh, that is a good combo. We'll have to see what abilities inflict Dropsy. Next on the list, I think, yeah, that's it for page 1. Next one I'm seeing is Diamondback. Diamondback weaves earth aspected ether into a hard mineral shield, mimicking what many describe as the maddening effect of shelled dragons' carapaces. Alas, though its defensive properties are superlative, its weight makes it impossible for the caster to move while under its aegis. Standard cast time, 3000 MP cost, reduces damage taken by 90% and nullifies most knockback and draw-in effects. Unable to move or take action for the duration of this effect, lasts for 10 seconds. If used when Waxing Nocturne is active, the effects will transition immediately into Waning Nocturne. The effects of this action cannot be ended manually. We'll have to take a look at what Waxing and Waning Nocturne are soon. Next is page 3. We've got Missile, a magical imitation of War Machina technology. This technique allows the user to fire a barrage of ethereal missiles. When efficacious, which bear in mind is not guaranteed, it sends a shock through the foe that appears to resonate more the greater their vitality. Standard cast time, 300 MP, deals damage equal to 50% of a target's current HP. Chance of successful attack is low, has no effect on enemies whose level is higher than your own. When blue mages use this in Fates, it is very powerful. It is also incredibly annoying, because during certain seasonal events or crossover events, when people are required to do fates in order to get particular rewards, blue mages have a bad habit of coming in and spamming missile, which means that nobody has an opportunity to get credit for the fate other than the blue mages. So only the blue mages get credit, the fate is done immediately, and now everyone has to wait for the next fate to spawn. If you're a blue mage and there's a event going on, like an event that's making the community go out and do fates, please, for the love of God, chill. Let people actually get credit for the fights, because you're just making it miserable for everybody. Because only like 1 or 2 blue mages will get credit for the fight if you do this. Don't do it. It's a dick move. Next up, Tailscrew. Carlabos performs Tailscrew by collecting turbulent ether in the tip of its sail, then unleashing it at once as a violent whirl that rips foes' lives from their bodies. This is notoriously difficult to imitate due to the challenges inherent in attempting to control such a volatile, ethereal vortex. Standard cast time 400 MP, reduces target HP to a single digit. Chance of successful attack is low, has no effect on enemies whose level is higher than your own. Oh goody, it's missile but worse. Next, we have Feather Rain from Garuda. Oh, I do want that on my hotbar. Let me set that. Set that real quick to right here. And I'll move that over there. Okay. So, Feather Rain. Feather Rain, as swift and brutal as most of Garuda's skills, puts the force of a gale behind a storm of sharp plumes, afflicting foes with innumerable cuts and lashes that cause lingering agony. Instant cast, 30-second recast, 300 MP, deals wind damage with a potency of 220 to all enemies at a designated location. Also does wind damage over time, 40 potency for 6 seconds, so that is 80 potency total. Shares a recast time with Eruption, which is Ifrit's spell, my bad. Next up, Mountain Buster. I want to set that one as well. Alright, Mountain Buster. In a devastating recreation of one of Titan's most fearsome techniques, Mountain Buster strikes opponents with an upheaval of earth-aspected ether as if the land itself were ripping free of its confines to pulverize its defilers, or any unfortunate bystanders, as it were. Instant cast with a 1-minute recast, 400 MP, deals physical earth damage to all enemies in a cone before you with a potency of 400 for the first and 50% less for all remaining. Shares a recast timer with Shock Strike. Speaking of Shock Strike, from Ramuh. Shock Strike, never so imposing as when cast by Ramuh, calls down a bolt from the heavens. Though measurements are difficult to come by, its power is thought to far exceed that of Levin bolts found in nature. Indeed, it more closely resembles a warhammer crashing to the earth. Instant cast, 1-minute cooldown, 400 MP, deals lightning damage to target and all enemies nearby with a potency of 400 for the first and 50% less for all remaining enemies. Shares a recast with Mountain Buster. Okay, identical spells, but the difference is Mountain Buster is close range, Shock Strike has a range of 25 yalms. Oh, we place it and it has up to 25 yalms away, and it has a radius of 3 yalms. Mountain Buster is on top of us and has a radius of 6 yalms. Also, Earth physical versus magical lightning. Definitely setting that. Okay. Next up, Glass Dance from Shiva. To fully replicate this technique, beloved of Shiva, the Blue Mage calls forth a bow of ether from which she fires a hail of razor-sharp icicles. Those who knew the Lady Azael believe that Glass Dance may have taken form from her memories of observing hunters in Tailfeather. Instant cast, 90-second cooldown with 500 MP cost. Deals ice damage to all enemies in a wide arc to R4 and flanks with a potency of 350 for the first enemy and 50% less for all remaining enemies, so hits in front of you, hits to your sides. Shares a recast with Veil of the Whirl. And finally, Veil of the Whirl. This fearsome magic, inspired by Leviathan, creates an aqueous film of water collected from the atmosphere. Though a veil in the sense of offering protection from outside forces, it also functions as a mirror, reflecting foes' ether back upon them. Instant cast, 90-second cooldown, counters enemies with water damage every time we suffer damage. 50 potency on counter, 30-second duration, cannot be sacked with Ice Spikes or Shiltron, and shares a recast with Glass Dance. I'm pretty sure... yeah, we got Sonic Boom as well. I don't know why that isn't marked. A favorite technique of the zoo, who are able to perform it with a particularly vigorous flap of the wing, Sonic Boom produces a gust of wind-aspected ether so finely compressed that its lethality is often likened to that of a finely crafted blade. Very short cast time, but standard GCD cooldown, 200 MP, deals wind damage with a potency of 210. Alright, not bad. Anything else? Basic Instinct is not new? Alright then. That is it. Next time on Final Fantasy XIV, the Mass Carnival. Mass Carnival is going to be several videos. We're going to be tackling it in small chunks at a time. I believe about 8 instances at a time. You'll see what I mean when we get to it. I'll see everyone next time for that.